Hi, I'm Kyle Sucevich, and today I'm here to convince you that I should be an event commentator for the Pokémon TCG, US National and World Championships. Over the past 3 years, I provided commentary for over 1,000 Pokémon TCG matches, including more than 10 live events. I'm very comfortable speaking in front of an audience, and even more comfortable in front of a camera. As a player, I qualified for 9 World Championships, and I placed first, second, third, and fifth at the US National Championships, so I know everything there is to know about competing at the highest level. When it comes down to it, I firmly believe you won't find anybody more experienced, knowledgeable, and passionate about the Pokemon TCG than me. Pokemon truly is my passion in life, and it would be a dream come true to get this position. My audition video features a match between 3-time world champion Jason Klaczynski and one of the rising stars of the game, Joe Baca. My co-commentator for the video will be none other than Josue Rojano, one of the commentators for last year's World Championships. Thanks for this opportunity, and I hope you enjoy the video.
Hello, everybody. I am Josue Rojano here with Kyle Pooka Sucevich, and we have a very special match for you guys today. It's between the up-and-coming player Joe Baca and the 3-time reigning world champion Jason Klaczynski.
That's right, Josue. These two guys are from the Chicago area. Jason needs no introduction. He is arguably the best player of all time. Going up against Joe Baca, who is, like you said, an up-and-coming player. He is the Wisconsin State champion from last season, and also he's sitting at around 300 championship points this season, so a pretty consistent player, and we should have a great matchup.
Now, speaking of the matchup, they're going to be playing pretty interesting decks. Jason's going to be playing the Yveltal Garbodor deck, and Blastoise is going to be played by Joe here. So Blastoise is obviously a deck that we've all come to know and love throughout the last couple of seasons, but the Garbodor deck now includes Yveltal. Can you please kind of explain how the matchup works for us?
Yeah, on paper, it would seem like the deck with Garbodor would have an extreme advantage. Garbotoxin takes away all abilities in play, and Blastoise revolves around using that Deluge ability to power up its attackers quickly. And so you would just think that the Garbodor deck would win, but the Blastoise side does have Tool Scrapper to discard the tools off of Garbodor, regain abilities, and get that crucial turn to attach a bunch of energy. So it's actually a pretty close matchup, but I would say the edge goes to Jason right now since he is going first.
Exactly. Now he also gets to start with Trubbish, attaches a Pokemon tool, which is nice to see, and retreats to his Yveltal and attaches a double colorless energy. That's a great start for Jason because it threatens the Squirtle as well as getting the Trubbish in play, which means that we might not even get to see a Deluge this game.
Yeah, if Jason had an ideal start, that would basically be it. You want to get Trubbish down turn 1, he even got a Float Stone on it to retreat into the Yveltal EX. That way he can get that Garbodor out turn 2, start locking down abilities before Joe even gets a chance to evolve into Blastoise. And he threatens a turn 2 attack with that Yveltal EX, whether he wants to use Evil Ball or Y-Cyclone. Either one is pretty intimidating.
Exactly. Joe sees this and immediately searches for a Black Kyurem, no doubt going to try to retreat his Squirtle and get him to safety. However, this is Joe's very crucial turn here. Normally, as a Blastoise player, you want to get multiple Squirtles in play just for the sake of avoiding silly cards like Pokemon Catcher and whatnot. But also you want to get a Tropical Beach in play in order to refill your hand and maximize your opportunity at getting a turn 2 Blastoise, because you just need so many cards in order to go off.
Yeah, now, Jason, if there was a bad thing about his start, it's that he didn't have a supporter card. But now Joe plays that end. Both players are going to shuffle in and draw 6. Like you said, Joe is going to be hoping to draw a Tropical Beach to fill his hand up to 7 at the end of his turn. We'll see if he gets something good here.
Exactly. Now, Jason didn't play a supporter at least, so this is good news for Jason. Jason's got a very good chance of getting the Garbodor out, as well as getting the energy necessary in order to really start attacking. Even if he doesn't get to knock out the Squirtle, he's still going to be able to apply heavy damage to the Black Kyurem and really set the pace for the match.
Definitely. If he can start attacking turn 2 and get Garbotoxin going, that'll be a huge advantage. That's just so much pressure to put on Joe, who really needs to start getting that Blastoise in play very quickly and start attacking, because once Yveltal EX starts attacking, you don't have much time.
Now, Jason comes back with an N of his own. He has not gotten the Darkness Energy. or the Garbodor yet. So he's definitely going to be searching for both of these cards right now. And interestingly, Joe did not get the second Squirtle, so a Pokemon catcher would be very dangerous right now, as well as the Tropical Beach. He did not get that, so he's going to be looking at this brand new hand of 6 cards, and that's one less card that he would have had to work with.
Yeah, we'll have to see what Jason gets here. It looks like I think I see a big purple blob, so we're probably going to see Garbodor, and there it is. So
Rise, don't betray you.
that's a huge, huge thing for Jason right there. Getting that out, locking down abilities before Joe even gets a chance to use them. I don't think I see a Darkness Energy in his hand, though, so he won't be able to attack, but still, that turn 2 Garbodor is huge.
Yeah, he is looking at the double colorless energy, which obviously sucks. You would want to start attacking right now. Like I said, you want to set the pace of the match. You want to really put the pressure on Joe in order to kind of make him feel worried. And he plays a double colorless energy here on his Eviltal, which means no attack. That's a little unfortunate, but it's not as big of a deal as it could have been because he got the Garbodor in play. We will not say Deluge without seeing a Tool Scrapper first.
Yeah, I think Jason was making a decision there. Do I put this on the bench Eviltal EX, or do I just load the active one up with more energy so Evil Ball does more damage, and I can potentially knock out Black Kyurem EX in one hit? But he's going to take the conservative route and just attach to the bench Pokemon, and now we'll see if Joe can respond with anything.
Yeah, I would not have liked to see him take that gamble right here. He's got a Garbodor in play. There is no need to really put all your eggs in one basket right now. You never know what can happen, and you don't want to give Joe an extra opportunity to really come back here. Joe does get an Ultra Ball right now. I'm going to hopefully he'll find a Blastoise here because that would mean that he's going to have a rare candy in his hand, and that'll really help him out. I mean, obviously it won't set up the Deluge yet, but it'll be a start. However, he goes for a Keldeo EX instead. Obviously, Keldeo won't have the Russian ability right now, but I don't know here. I mean, this is kind of frustrating for me if I'm Joe because I really don't have much going for me, especially when my opponent's got a Garbodor in play.
Definitely. If there's one thing that you can be happy about, it's that you weren't attacked turn 2. So you will have an extra turn to, draw some stuff, maybe have a little breathing room to get Blastoise into play, but so far everything is in Jason's favor, and Joe is going to have some good things go his way.
Yeah, that was a glass half full way of looking at things, but in reality, yeah, things are looking kind of grim if I'm Joe. They're not hopeless yet by any means. I mean, it's still very early in the game. It's still only the second turn of the game, as a matter of fact. But it's definitely not looking very good. He's got a Professor's Letter here, probably searching for the Lightning Energy and a Water, and he's gonna slowly and surely manually attach some energies to his Pokemon.
Yeah, from here on out, the game's going to come down to a few things. I would say the biggest factor will be how many Tool Scrapper does Joe play? Most Blastoise decks play about 2 Tool Scrapper, which means they'll have 2 opportunities to discard the tool off of Garbodor and use his abilities. And then a Dowsing Machine as well, that's usually the standard A-Spec card, which can recover a Tool Scrapper for a 3rd time. So that gives you 3 times to attack, basically. And is that going to be enough to win?
Exactly. Now, it is very important that the Dowsing Machine be used for the Tool Scrapper. In most games, you're gonna have to take this 3rd Tool Scrapper in order to really take the game. You can only attach so many energies in a turn just because you only have access to so many cards. So I do want to see Joe maximize his resources there in that situation. Joe did have to pass after attaching a Lightning Energy, which means that he doesn't even have a Blastoise in play right now.
Yeah, it's been a pretty bad start for Joe so far. No Tropical Beach, no Blastoise. Has to manually attach to a bench Black Kyurem EX right now. And Garbotoxin's already in effect. It's not looking good, but there are a few wild cards in this matchup that could come up. The Tool Scrapper is number 1, and hey, Pokemon Catcher is still viable as well for Joe. So who knows? Anything can happen with that in play.
Yeah, it is funny that even though the card got changed, it's still very, very useful. And decks that don't have access to things like Red Signal are still very much using this Pokemon Catcher because it's such a game breaker when it does work. So it is something to watch out for. Now, Jason did get to attack. He finally found his Darkness Energy. So now the Black Kyurem's only got about 1 turn left in play. So it's the clock's definitely ticking for Joe.
Yeah, his Black Kyurem EX got hit with an Evil Ball for 100 damage, and that thing is basically dead to Joe. He's sacrificing it, He's just saying, you know what, I'm going to power up the benched one. That thing is stuck out there. And he's forced to play another N. This is really bad. This is his third N he has to play already. I mean, that's a card you want to save later on in the game. It's great to be able to play a Tool Scrapper, discard the tool off the Garbodor, and then play an N to disrupt your opponent's hand late in the game, but he's used 3 of them already, so he may not have that option later on in the game.
That is incredible. I guess I must have missed one because I'd only counted 2, but if it's the third one, then that means so much. That means that he's not going to have access to it later in the game. So if his opponent really jumps ahead, like it looks like he's about to, it looks like that Kyurem's about to go down, then you're not going to have access to a way to really take away your opponent's options. So losing these ends is just incredible here.
Yeah, whether it's 2 or 3, having to use that many early on is rough either way, and especially when you're going to go down a few prizes. That's just a resource you want to have as the game progresses. We do see an Ultra Ball from Jason for another Yveltal EX, so it looks like his version of the deck is just very straightforward. That's very much Jason's style. He wants a simple game plan. It's just, I want Yveltal EX attacking, I want Garbodor to lock down abilities, and maybe some Sableye as backup for Junk Hunt. Nothing fancy here, and we do see another laser, or the first laser we see that's going to poison it. Not really doing much, but we'll probably see a knockout this turn.
Yeah, I was about to ask you why he might have played the laser, since obviously he didn't need it, but then I realized that he had a bicycle, so no point in asking you that question. However, we do see another N being played. This is the second one from Jason, and I mean, we've seen N be played over and over here, so that might actually come into play. I'm not sure, but it is important to note that these guys are using their Ns very early in the game, when most of the time you kind of want to save them for later.
Yeah, I hope they play other supporters besides that. It looks like that's the only one they play so far.
Exactly. I wonder if Jason's going to use Y Cyclone here, or if he's going to go with the Evil Ball plan. This is going to be very interesting. If he uses Y Cyclone, I'm going to have to assume that he's going to have a way to really keep attacking after that. But most importantly, I wonder where he's going to attach the energy to, and it looks like he's putting it all on one giant Yveltal. What do you think about that?
It's kind of an in-between kind of play. I mean, on one hand, sure, he's saying if I'm going to get knocked out by a Black Ballista this turn, I don't want to lose my energy. So he's going to move that double colorless back to the Yveltal EX on the bench, just kind of conserve it. At the same time, if Joe were to pull all that off and then get a Pokemon catcher to bring it out, he would lose pretty much all of his energy. So it's a little risky in the case that Joe gets a Pokemon catcher on it, but I would say that's probably the better way to go.
Okay. There are merits to both. I love playing it safe, so that took me a little by surprise, but I can understand why he would do it. He's got such a big advantage now. He really wants to take the clock and really make it as fast as possible here. So he's going to want to start taking one-hit KOs on these EXs, really lowering the amount of turns that Joe has here in order to get something going. Now, Joe actually got a Blastoise in play, but he used the Dowsing Machine in order to get the Blastoise in play.
Yeah, that's huge. As we said earlier, you usually want to use that Dowsing Machine on Tool Scrapper, but he has to use it for a Heavy Ball to get his Blastoise out. I mean, I can't really blame him. He needs to get Blastoise out to win at some point, but it's painful to see him have to use that there.
Yeah, that is kind of... I mean, it's definitely unfortunate, but when you're dealing with Stage 2 decks, sometimes... I mean, you just need so many cards. You need your Rare Candy, you need your Stage 2, and sometimes you just don't have access to everything. So I guess that's what Dowsing Machine's for, in order to really get things going. It just really sucks for him in order that he had to use his Dowsing Machine, which is so important in this matchup. The Garbodor is still in play. It still has the tool attached, and even though Blastoise is in play, it still can't even use its ability. So there's another N from Jason here. This is the third N from Jason, and he's obviously running extremely low. Now, however, I kind of like that he used it because he's kind of pulling ahead. So, he's pulling so far ahead that he doesn't want to see these Ns later on in the game.
Yeah, as the game progresses and you take your prizes, N is a weaker draw card for yourself. It's good to disrupt your opponent after he's taken a bunch of prizes, but Jason realizes I really don't want to draw these anymore, so I'm going to play this N. And he also needs an energy to attack with his Yveltal EX, since he did move it off with Y Cyclone last turn. And I don't see one, so he might actually miss a turn of attacking here, which is going to be huge for Joe.
He does. Wow, he doesn't have an energy. That's terrible for him, obviously. The fact that he's not going to be able to knock out the Squirtle and again, like really just quicken the pace of the game is huge for Joe. This is an extra turn that Joe did not expect to have. So now, again, he would still need the Tool Scrapper and everything like that. But the fact that this is happening for him really gives him a lot of breathing room that he did not expect to have at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that Squirtle is hanging in there. I thought Yveltal EX was basically going to rip him in half, but Squirtle is a champion. He's going to survive. And this might be an opportunity for Joe to capitalize because Jason only has, 2 cards in his hand, and I don't see a supporter in there. So if Joe could pull off a big turn with the Tool Scrapper and a Black Ballista with Black Hiram EX's turn, this could start to swing the momentum.
Is that all he needs is Tool Scrapper, a few energies, and a Black Ballista? No, not a big deal.
It's not that tough.
That is true, actually. We do see an Ultra Ball from Joe, and I believe he's discarding an Execute, which has the propagation ability. It's a card that we don't normally see. Even in this Blastoise deck, it's not that common to see. So that's kind of a cool card that I'm seeing here.
Yeah, Execute is an awesome card in this deck because you have so many cards that discard cards like Ultra Ball.
Wait. Before anything, Pokemon Catcher. He does get a heads on the Pokemon Catcher, and remember what we were talking about. The Pokemon that has so many energy attached to it is now in danger. The Tool Scrapper comes down, and that's actually what I was about to mention. He doesn't have the Tool Scrapper yet, but he does now. So now he has access to Deluge. Jirachi comes down.
What is going on here?
I can't even catch my breath here. Stellar Guidance from Jirachi is going to allow him to Colress. It's going to allow him to Colress for 10 whole cards. All he needs here is a couple of energy cards in order to knock out this Yveltal. If the Yveltal goes down, then we will only see 1 energy in play from Jason and no tools with a 2-card hand that has no supporters. This is incredible.
Well, I guess all those slow turns for Joe are in the past now. This is going to be an extremely explosive turn. And this is just the power of the Blastoise deck. You get these big turns, you get to use your abilities, and all of a sudden we're going to see a Black Ballista for 200 if Joe can get the energy. And I don't know if Jason was expecting that one, or even if Joe was expecting that kind of a turn, but this is definitely going to be interesting now.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if Joe doesn't get the energy here. It would be terrible for him. But assuming he does, then this is going to be incredibly difficult for Jason to overcome. He's got access to Sableye and Junka, but he doesn't even have an energy in order to attack. So I don't know. Really don't know what's going to happen here, but I have to believe that Joe's in position to really take advantage of the game here.
Yeah, and we do see the Execute coming out of the discard pile using Propagation and fulfilling its purpose in life, being discarded again. Superior Energy Retrieval, you do have to discard 2 cards to get back 4 basic energy cards. There's only 3 in the discard pile, so Joe will take those 3. This obviously works very well with Black Ballista since it has to discard 3 energy, and Blastoise can just reattach them. So we know Joe definitely will be able to attack this turn, and he'll get some extra energy on the field as well. So things are starting to look really scary for Jason.
Yeah, indeed. Now, oh my goodness, this is actually pretty cool for Joe. Joe is going to be able to take advantage of the game, and I'm looking at Jason's hand. He doesn't even have a tool in order to really stop Joe from really going off again next turn. Jason is in a world of hurt right now, and the fact that Tropical Beach is in play is awesome for him because it means he's actually going to have something in order to be able to do, and the game won't immediately be over. But I really can't believe what I'm saying here. Just Jirachi, Blastoise, all these things had to happen in order for Joe to come back, but it happened.
It all happened because of Tool Scrapper. It's funny what can happen when you actually get to use your abilities. There's a reason Garbodor is so strong, and that's because everyone else's abilities are so ridiculous. And you can see Joe just gets 1 turn of using his abilities, and all of a sudden we're seeing a 200 damage attack, and he's going to tie the game.
What's pretty cool, too, and interesting is that I just saw Joe level ball. I think I counted something along the lines of 12 cards left in his deck. He went through so many cards right now with a big Colress and all that, I mean, his deck is just basically nothing anymore, which means he's got all the resources he needs right now. And the Black Ballista is going to go down, and that's it. Yveltal's down. Down and out, 2 prizes for Joe, and that's the vast majority of Jason's energy.
Jason goes through all the motions, puts all 200 damage on the Evoltal EX to show that it's knocked out, and it'll go right into the discard pile. Let's see what he drew for the turn. Looks like, oh wow, a Floatstone. That's actually a huge draw. That's going to shut Joe's abilities off again and put the brakes on this Blastoise train.
Yeah, I mentioned earlier that he didn't have a Pokemon tool in hand. Turns out he drew one, which is one of the better draws that he could have gotten from the deck. Now he's going to be able to use Joe's Tropical Beach in order to refill his hand, and he doesn't actually care. This Sablei's only purpose right now is going to be to take one big hit from any Pokemon. It doesn't really matter. And that's assuming that Joe's going to be able to attack. More than likely, Joe's not going to have access to anything other than an energy and pass because he's already used a dowsing machine and he's already used one tool scrapper.
Yeah, if Joe wants to use his second tool scrapper here, I think Jason almost welcomes it. That's if he's going to use it to knock out a Sableye, that's just one prize. Joe still has to find a way to take 3 more prizes after that. And all Jason would have to do is attach one more tool, and Joe would not have access to any abilities for the rest of the game, assuming he only plays 2 Tool Scrapper. So if Joe actually decides to play the second Tool Scrapper this turn, if he has it, he has to pretty much dump down all of his energy this turn. Otherwise, it's not going to be worth it.
And there is that Tool Scrapper that is more than likely going to be the final Tool Scrapper of the game for Joe, which means it's all or nothing right now, and it's up to him in order to get as many energy in play as he can. He does have a Keldeo EX, which is going to obviously be the attacker of choice here. He wants to conserve his energy and really try and set himself up in order to take all 4 prizes this one turn. Pretty tough to do if I say so myself.
Yeah, I mean, what do you do if you're Joe here? He's going to go for the superior energy retrieval. He decided this is the turn he wants to burn that last Tool Scrapper. And if he can get enough energy in play, this might be worth it. Normally, for your last Tool Scrapper, you like to wait until you have an N in hand, so maybe you can buy yourself a second turn of your abilities if your opponent misses a Pokemon tool off of their N. But it looks like Joe's just going for it. He decides, I am not going to wait. I am just going to strike while I have everything in my hand. He's using Deluge to put energy on Keldeo EX, on Black Kyurem EX, and we're going to have to see if he attaches any more energy here.
Yeah, I am kind of surprised that Joe decided to take this turn. Like you said, it is only a Sableye. It's kind of counterintuitive to say, oh, I don't want to use my cards right now. I want to wait, even though I have a fresh Sableye that I can just knock out. But you are right that Jason kind of welcomes the use of this Tool Scrapper right now. He doesn't really mind giving up one prize. That still means that he's got to get rid of 2 Keldeo or 2 Eviltals, in order to win the game. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens. But I do agree that Jason probably welcomes the use of this Tool Scrapper right now.
Yeah, now we are going to see Keldeo EX rush in. It just basically shoves Black Kyurem EX out of the way and says, I'm the active now. And he'll use that Secret Sword attack, which will do 110 damage. So it's going to take down Sableye. And he does have the Black Kyurem EX all ready to go on the bench as well. So if an Eviltal EX were to come out, he can Black Ballista. It's just the challenge for Joe is, can he actually get all 3 prizes before Jason locks him out of the game with Garbotoxin once again?
Yeah, it's really up to Jason here to stabilize. If Jason can stabilize, then I'm going to assume that that's the end of the Tool Scrappers, and it's basically Joe's game, or it's going to be Jason's game to lose at that point. However, that is kind of a tall order considering the fact that, Joe has so many energy already in play. Jason still has to get quite a few things going, and he only has 1 energy in play himself. So that does say a lot. By the way, I noticed that Joe didn't even bother using Propagation last turn. So if executes 1 use in this entire world is to use, to come back from the grave in order to go back down, then it's pretty sad when Joe doesn't even bother using it for that.
Yeah, I think actually Joe just had some dead cards he didn't want to draw anymore. Sometimes it's weird, you actually don't want to even use Propagation. You just want to discard cards so you don't draw them if your opponent plays an N. I think that was probably the case there. He just had extra cards he knew he couldn't play anymore. So Ultra Ball and Superior Energy Retrieval can help sometimes in that regard.
So basically, what you're saying is that Execute has the saddest existence of all time.
Pretty much.
Wow, I cannot believe it. Jason just had a tropical beach here. He did not have a tool in order to attach it to Garbodor, and Joe has access to an entire extra turn of abilities. This is actually incredible for Joe because he was not. I can guarantee you that he was not expecting this. There is no way that this was part of the game plan. And now that Tool Scrapper actually did a lot of work. Originally, I thought Jason was going to welcome it, but go figure. When you have no tools in hand to replace it, I guess it's not something you want to see.
Yeah, this is great news for Joe. Obviously, he gets another turn to use his abilities. Not only that, he's going to get a free knockout on a Garbodor. He's going to go down to 2 prizes, which means he'll just have to knock out one Evoltal EX after this to win the game. There's only one thing he has to probably worry about at this point, and that's Pokemon Catcher. If Jason's able to bring out the Black Kyurem EX with all 4 energy on it and Evil Ball it for a knockout, Keldeo EX is probably not going to get a knockout on Evoltal EX next turn, since it'll have only 3 energy. So, I don't know, this is still going to be a close game, but hey, that's exactly what Joe needed to see. No Pokemon tool.
Yeah, and the fact that Joe's going to have access to, well, Deluge means that he's going to actually be able to power up the second Black Kyurem if he chooses to. And it looks like that's what he's about to do. So he's going to have access to 2 Black Kyurems. He's only going to have 2 prizes in play. So now Jason doesn't even really have the ability to knock out the Keldeo here with the Evoltal, because then he's just going to lose the game right back. So with only 2 prizes in play, Jason's back is against the wall, and the hero of the story comes to the active spot. That is Sableye, my man.
Yeah, Joe's got what we like to call the checkmate position, where if you want to set up that Evoltal EX, you lose, because you're going to get hit by a Black Ballista. You have just too many energy in play for your opponent to respond. So we're going to have to see if Jason can find any way out here. It's obvious he won't be able to attack with Evoltal EX, but does he have some other alternative?
Yeah. Before we get into that, I hadn't actually heard of the checkmate position before. I actually kind of like that. I think we should trademark it. That's pretty cool. We do see a dark patch by Jason here, obviously getting a third energy in play, and that's a very welcomed energy just because he's been so energy starved this entire game. He's even missed some crucial energy drops, so that is important to note. Now, a double colorless energy can be attached. Oh, nope. There's a Pokemon Catcher first. Pokemon Catcher does come out as a Tails, though, so without... yeah, that is actually really huge because, like you mentioned, he could have. I mean, actually, now that I think about it, he could have actually targeted the Blastoise since there's so many energy in play, and that would have been something. Because I mean, Blastoise decks don't normally run Switch, and when you have 10 of your energy in play, that's not a bad strategy to have, especially when you can just junk hunt every turn.
Yeah, I guess it might not be a checkmate. This might be just a check because Jason with that Pokemon Catcher, he can find a way out. It's a little weird, but if he gets a Pokemon tool onto Garbodor and reactivates Garbotoxin, like you said, Joe has so much energy in play, that might be all the energy he has in his deck. And if Jason could just catch out the Blastoise, it'll just be stuck there and Joe will deck out because he can't retreat. And that would be a bizarre way to win, but that's definitely a viable option.
Yeah, back in my day, we used to play something along the lines of 16 to 17 energy. So seeing only 10 energy, it kind of makes me smirk here because, that goes to show you can't play too many energy, and Joe might have to pay the price here for his greed.
We do see the Float Stone. That is exactly what Jason needed. That was huge. Now abilities are basically off for the rest of the game. Joe has burned 2 Tool Scrapper and his Dowsing Machine, so I doubt he'll have any more left. And Jason, he's going for that catcher play. He knows exactly what he has to do to win. He knows he can't attack with Evoltal EX. And we may see this game come down to a coin flip.
I like how Jason isn't very subtle about his junk hunt. He just immediately goes for the for the Pokemon Catcher, and he's been looking through his discard pile for the last 20 seconds, just going like, I wonder what other card would be nice. I mean, Pokemon Catcher's it here, but what else would be kind of cool? And he decides on the Hypnotoxic Laser. Never really a bad choice. That's basically 30 damage whenever you want it. Pokemon Catcher here from Joe. If Joe gets heads, that is the end of the game, but he does not get heads. Wow, Jason just... Oh, my goodness. Jason could have been down and out before we even realized what happened. That was a Pokemon Catcher out of thin air. Like, Man, I really have to question Joe's tactics here because you have to be very, you have to be very dramatic about the way you use your Pokemon catchers. He did not, he did not dramatize the catcher, and he paid the price because if he would have been cool about it, if he would have known that everything was on the line here, if he would have let us know, then maybe it would have been a heads.
Yeah, I thought the game-deciding flip was going to be on Jason's side, and then Joe dropped down a catcher of his own. That would have been game over right there. Just Black Ballista on an Evoltal EX, and Joe would have made a pretty ridiculous comeback in this game. But now he's faced with kind of a dilemma. If he just attacks, he knows that a Pokemon catcher brings out Blastoise, and he can never retreat it. He decks out and loses. He's going to count Jason's deck to see how many cards are left, to see who would actually lose that battle. And let's see, I would guess Jason's deck is a little bigger. So that's bad news. Bad news for Joe.
Just from counting Joe's deck earlier, I could tell that Joe's deck was very low, and Jason, even though he's been through a lot of resources, still has quite a few cards left. It has to have a few more than Joe. So the pressure's got to be on Joe here. The fact that they both missed Pokemon catchers for basically the game spells, I mean, this is huge for both of them. I mean, I do like that they both missed the catcher just because it creates a more fair atmosphere. Joe decided to retreat his Keldeo, I can only assume, in order to get energy cards in his discard pile in order to be able to use them later on. This is kind of weird, and now Joe's going to use Black Ballista on poor Sableye. That is about 130 more damage than you needed, buddy. But he does do it, and he's down to a single prize, and he's got 5 energies in his discard pile.
Yeah, you can see the thought process there. The reason Blastoise only runs 10, 11, 12 energy at most is because superior energy retrieval just gets them back. You're rarely in this position, but here is the Pokemon catcher. Oh my goodness.
That is heads. No, he did not miss a Pokemon catcher here. He doesn't even know who to target. He decides on going on the Black Hero, and that is one of the problems with Hypnotoxic Laser is a heads. That is one of the problems with going for this strategy, is now you're going to leave yourself with no energy in play, and I mean Garbodor's in play, and Garbotoxin's also online. So I don't know. This is huge. This Pokemon catcher was huge for Jason. It was going to be huge no matter what. But the fact that he just got heads is incredibly important here.
Yeah, you can't. That's it's kind of an understatement there. Very, very important. This was a game-changing flip. I mean, Joe was pretty much in trouble no matter what happened. The catcher was going to get him pretty much no matter what he did. But it's heads for Jason, and now he recognizes, well, I could just knock out that Black Kyurem EX. Joe doesn't really have any energy to respond. Might as well go for that instead of trying to deck him out. Seems like the better way to go. And now Jason's back in the lead when it just seemed like Joe was going to take command.
If Joe has the unprecedented third tool scrapper, then Joe can still definitely win this game.
I've seen it before.
We can never take that option off the table until we see his deck list, which we haven't. So if he does have it, Joe can still very easily win it. Assuming he does not have it, though, what options does Joe really have? He definitely can't activate the Jirachi. That's not an option. He can't activate one of the 2 EXs because they can't retreat, and they'll just get knocked out. They'll both just get knocked out. He can't even activate the Blastoise, which would normally be the best option, because then Jason could just say, all right, pass, and that'll be the end of that. So Squirtle seems to be the only option here for Joe. I don't know if he's going to have enough turns in order to get one last Black Ballista off.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, the only logical choice Joe can do is promote Squirtle here, and I guess he's going to have to try to manually power up Black Kyurem EX. If he has 3 energy on there, Jason only has 4 on the Evoltal EX right now. That's going to be 160 total if there's 7 total energy between them. If Joe can find his last N and disrupt Jason and prevent him from getting that one last energy attachment or Hypnotoxic Laser, he may have a chance to squeak out a win, just surviving just by 20 HP. But boy, it's going to be a long shot at this point.
I agree. There is not much else I can say about that besides I agree, because like you said, I mean, 160 damage is what we're looking at from Jason, but all he's going to need is 20 more. Muscle Band, another energy, Hypnotoxic Laser, all of these will do the trick, And so far, he does. I don't believe he's got either of them. I do believe that Joe is still alive here, and well, actually, he's got a dowsing machine, so there goes that. But Joe is going to be looking at the need for an end here, I believe. Oh, never mind. There goes the dowsing machine. Maybe Joe will have some options available to him.
I think Jason's got the red in the eyes here. I think he's going for that game-ending Pokemon catcher here. He just wants to get this game over with. Doesn't want to take any chances.
You are right. A hex from the Pokemon catcher will let him target the Jirachi. Joe even points at the Jirachi. I don't know if he did it subconsciously or not. But there is going to be not a hypnotoxic laser, but a Pokemon catcher here. It is for potentially the game. Will Jason end the game here? Tails on the Pokemon catcher. The game still continues. That's a little bit. That's kind of like a fake confidence though, because you still have Jason on the driver's seat. Joe still needs quite a bit to happen for him, but the game did not end, so we do have that going for Joe.
Yeah, I mean this game has been all about the catcher flips. It's strange that after Pokemon Catcher got the errata that it's a coin flip now. You would think it would have less of an impact on games, but we're seeing here that now it's just the flips that are deciding it instead of just catcher by itself deciding the game. And Jason does take the knockout on the Squirtle. He'll go down to 1 prize. And if Joe can get an N here, put Jason down to 1 card, this is going to be an extremely close finish.
I don't see any choice for Joe here besides the Black Kyurem.
Yeah.
I believe he's looking at the discard pile just to see if he's got maybe a muscle band left in the deck or a laser still. I'm not sure exactly what Jason has left in the deck. I'm taking a look at his hand, and it doesn't seem like he's got anything besides Juniper, which, I mean, that would just mean that if he's got any left in his deck, the game's over, and all he needs is energy or better. So Black Kyurem does become active, and from Joe would keep him alive here.
Definitely. He's going to have to attach an energy here, but that's 1 energy short of the Black Ballista. He's going to have to slash here, and no N.
No. Slash from Joe. Jason draws the Hypnotoxic Laser. That is going to be enough damage from Jason. The game is over. The irrelevant flip. It does not matter. Joe has officially lost. This is a huge comeback, actually, now that I think about it. Jason was down and out. He had a 2-card hand with no supporters and no tools at one point with only 1 energy in play. Remember that.
This is pretty indicative of the matchup, though. It's a very momentum-swinging kind of a matchup. One side's ahead, then the Blastoise side drops down a Tool Scrapper and takes a big knockout, and eventually it just seems like this happens a lot. The Blastoise deck gets down to 1 prize, and Garbotoxin just shuts him down, and Yveltal EX swoops in for the last big knockout. So Jason's going to take this one over Joe, but what an incredible game.
Yeah, seriously. I'm glad we got to commentate on this just because it might have been a fun game, but it was definitely so close, and you could tell that this matchup is very close. You could tell that Garbodor does have the advantage, and it's up to the Blastoise player to really come back from these Garbotoxin locks. I guess is the only way to really describe it. And Joe had a valiant effort. He did a great job, but unfortunately, he could not do what he needed to do, and he could not secure the 6th prize.
Yeah, at the end of the day, that quick turn to Garbodor and Joe having to burn that dowsing machine early on, that all adds up to Jason being the winner.
Exactly. Now, I did have a blast doing this with you. We haven't done this in a long time, so I'm glad we got to do it again. And I hope that everybody enjoyed it, and I believe that's going to be it from us.
Yeah, that's all we got here. I hope everybody enjoyed the match. We'll have some more videos for you guys soon, but otherwise, that's going to be it. I am Kyle Pooka Sucevich.
All right, I guess that's my turn to say.
We should have practiced that one.
It's my turn to say that I'm Josue Rojano, Josue Crims Rojano, and we hope you guys enjoyed it. You guys have a good night.